This is why I got into the race, ladies and gentlemen. I challenged Mr. Lincoln. He raised the debt ceiling to $17 trillion. I said I had enough. If it was good enough for Steve King, and it was good enough for Chuck Grassley, should have been good enough for me, Tom Latham. Tom Latham's an honorable man. I just questioned the way he voted. I challenged him, but then he decided to retire. We could do better. The budget. Some of the places in the government, there's no sunset to them. They need to stop. And if the people that are in office don't look at a budget and change things, here's my advice. Primary the opponent. We need to get people in office that are honorable men, that you can trust. It will do the job. It will stand up to the liberals in Congress, whether it be Republican or Democrat. We can do better. This is the United States of America. 17 trillion going to 20 trillion. You have a budget? Your home budget? I have one also. Of course, you have to go out and buy a house. You have to make payments, car payment, schools. Everybody has a budget. You live within your means. And when I get to, if I'm fortunate, God willing, I will know what to do. I'm good at saying no, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm good at taking the people in and bringing them with me and making sense out of the situation. The time is up. Thank you very much.
Have you ever really paid attention to how Washington budgets? They do this baseline budget, where at the end of every fiscal year, the new administration, new Congress, they have agencies and departments come up, and members of Congress, they just throw the same amount of money that these agencies and departments got the last year, and they give a little more, and there's no transparency, there's no accountability, you really have no idea what they're going to spend their money on, and you find out that they're spending it on sometimes very nefarious things, like the IRS investigating you and wanting to even know what you pray, or the EPA buying drones and flying over farms or trying to regulate dust. It's bizarre world out there, folks. We need to do what a lot of states do, zero-based budgeting. What that is agencies and departments come up, and Congress assumes that they start at zero. And they have to justify every dollar that they want and why they want it. We also need to audit departments and agencies. People talk about auditing the Fed. I'm for that. I like to audit everybody else. Because only then is there real accountability and do we know what they're spending money on. And when we catch them, they're less likely to do it again. And you know how bills and laws, when they're passed, they go on forever. There needs to be a date certain when some of these laws and programs end. So we can take a look at it, see if they work or not, see if they're good for the economy, see if they're hurting our liberties or rights. We need to sunset legislation. If it's not going well, we just call it a loss and we ditch it. We get rid of it. You have to live within your means. Businesses have to live within their means. If not, what happens? The bank comes along, they take away the car, the house, the boat. You've got real problems. So we need to go after waste, fraud, abuse, mismanagement of government funds. I know how to do that. The oversight tools that I have learned as being Senator Grass's chief of staff, the hearings, the tough letters, protecting whistleblowers, working with the media when you can, when they want to, hauling administration officials down to your office and demanding answers, holding nominations, withholding funds. And you can also get out of deficit by increasing revenue to the federal government. Now, that does not mean I want to raise taxes, because of course I don't. But you want to create an environment where more jobs are being created, and therefore there are more taxpayers. More taxpayers will send in more money. But we want to increase the amount of workers and taxpayers out there to help the revenue side. We do not need to increase taxes.
Being that shortly after the hour, I think we will conclude now with a summation statement by each candidate, continuing in order, and try to hold it to 3 minutes if you would please. Thank you. Yes, we'll go right down here.
Thank you very much. Good news. There's some great people up here that are running for Congress. We will have a good candidate. Bad news is there is someone that is running as a Democratic nominee, and I look at all these questions, and I actually served with her for 4 years, and I think she would have answered the opposite of the way we would have, which puts our country headed down the wrong direction. I have to distinguish myself from everybody else that's up here. It's about what I've done. It's about some of the accomplishments that I've had. I know what it's like to create jobs. I know what it's like to cut taxes. I know how to stand up, even when the Republicans are on the wrong track, down at the state capitol. I'm not going to change who I am. But we have got to send someone out there that can make tough decisions. We have got to quit kicking that can down the road. With me, I will always be home every weekend. I will come home to be with my wife and my family. But most importantly, all of you, who are my bosses, and listen and learn from you. Everyone goes to Washington, D.C. with good intentions, but something happens when they get out there. I've never made a career out of this, nor will I. To me, this is public service. We've got to quit sending people out there that make a career and put themselves or their party before the people they represent. As you can see, we all agree on a lot of things up here. But I'm battle tested. I'm not going to change. I am not going to collapse under pressure. We've got to send someone out there that will make tough decisions. We all agree, Democrats, Republicans, whoever they are, what's going on in Washington, D.C. is wrong. We are on the wrong track. This debt is going to kill our country, and most importantly, kill the younger people in the next generation. I will not pass this debt on to my kids or any other younger people. I will go to Washington, D.C. and make tough decisions. I would be very honored and humbled if you'd consider supporting my campaign. Because I will look you in the eye and I will tell you what I will do, and I will follow through with that when I get into that swamp in Washington, D.C. Thank you very much.
It has been an honor and a privilege being your Secretary of State, and I really appreciate the ability to be here with these fine gentlemen and to be able to talk with you today. You know me. I stand up for what I believe in and I fight for it. No matter what the other side says, no matter what the Des Moines Register writes, I don't back down, and I won't back down if you send me to Washington. Washington is broken, and we need somebody who's going to go and fix it. As a city councilman, I talked about how I cut $1 million out of the mayor's budget, cut the city tax levy every year. When Dr. Carhart tried to set up shop for a late-term abortion clinic, I fought him and put a deed restriction on the property he was looking at to make sure that no abortions could be performed on that property. He didn't come. As your Secretary of State, I have fought for voter ID and election integrity, expanded military voting rights, and tried to make sure that we have an honest vote. We need some honesty and integrity in Washington. I'm an Eagle Scout, and I promise you, I'm going to go fight, and I'm going to fight to repeal Obamacare. Because we need to. We need to fix the problem where we have a piece of legislation that is forcing us to buy health insurance and is killing jobs. One of my opponents trusts Congress to balance the budget. I don't. I think we have to have a balanced budget amendment because I don't trust Congress. They will not do the right thing if we don't force them. We need to follow the Constitution, and we need a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution. And we want to fix Washington and quit sending people to Washington who work for themselves. We need term limits. We can't keep a system that sends 90% of people back to Washington with a 10% approval rate. You think of every great senator or congressman or congresswoman, and I can think of Dick Durbin and Chuck Schumer and Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi and you name it. People who I think are working for themselves instead of the people. I'll work for you, the people. And I humbly ask for your support on June 3rd. And thank you again for being here.
Thanks for all sharing some time with us. Before we end, maybe we can all look back and wait for the gentleman back here. I have a little message for his camera. He's from our opponent's campaign. I want to go back to an issue that's, quite frankly, I think the biggest news issue in Iowa this week. And no, I'm not talking about pig farms. Okay. I'm talking about the comments Bruce Braley made that insulted our Senator Chuck Grassley, farmers, anyone who doesn't have a legal education, quite frankly, I think all Iowans. And Stacey Apple, the Democrat in this race, tried to sweep it under the rug by saying, well, she was asked about, well, Mr. Braley has apologized, so it's a case closed. Well, no, it's not case closed. Okay, we're not here to critique Bruce Braley's etiquette on offering apologies. We're here to know, do you agree with what Bruce Braley said? So I challenge Stacey Apple to come clean with the voters and to tell us, does she agree that a farmer, a mere farmer from Iowa, isn't qualified to be chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee? Because I think Chuck Grassley would do a darn fine job. And furthermore, I want to know if Stacey Apple agrees with Bruce Braley and would join his 30-plus year crusade to oppose tort reform. Okay? That's what these issues are about. So don't hide behind apologies. Tell the voters where you stand. Now, I'm one of those people who thinks that it's still an honor and a privilege to have the opportunity to represent 700,000 Iowans in the U.S. Congress. And so I am here today to ask for your support and your vote. I think you've seen a lot of similarity on some issues, but I also think you've seen some differences in the capabilities and qualifications of folks to be an effective advocate for you once elected. And I also think that once elected part is important. This is a tough district. It's a swing district. It's a district that Barack Obama carried over Mitt Romney. We can't take that November election for granted. And so we need to nominate someone who can win. And I think this is an anti-insiders year. I think this is an anti-politicians year. So I'm proud to stand before you as someone who has the skill set and the background to win in November and to be an effective advocate for you once elected. But I don't bring the baggage of being a politician, a previous, someone who's held office before. So I think that's something that's going to help me, along with the years I've had working for Iowa's farmers, supporting this economy, stressing conservative candidates and causes, and things of that nature. So you know me, you know my family. Tina and Max would like to be here. Eaton's actually in town playing with some friends. Max unfortunately got sick, so you know how that goes. But we need to check all three of those boxes. We got to win. We have someone who will vote right. But then more than that, we need someone who can be a leader and an effective advocate. And so I ask you to think about those things as you select your candidate. I hope you come to the conclusion that I can get that job done. Thank you, and God bless you.
Why not me? I wrote this down. Leadership, diversity, and trust. You can mix all those up. That's Joe Braden. Leadership, what I've done with my life. The things I've been involved in. Have put me in position to win this election. And I am not an insider. My honorable gentlemen here are insiders. I'm on the outside. I'm an elementary PE teacher, 26 years, a common man that you can trust. That's led a life of diversity. I've spoken 3 different organizations, all black members. They're voting for me because of the third thing, the trust they have in Joe Braden, because of the life I've led. So when people say things, the expression is you talk the talk and you walk the walk. I've done that with my life. With all the things that I've done. And what will happen is, because people believe in me and they trust in me and the leadership skills I've had, they will vote for me, and then they come along and we can change their hearts and minds. And maybe they were thinking a little bit more liberal and they didn't want to be a Republican anymore, and we just move them along and they just said, you know what, Joe, I think you're right. I think you got something there. I've been led astray by my party, the Democrats. Just bring them along. See, I'm a non-union teacher. You don't have very many of those votes. I think there's only 2 people in my building. 37. And we can bring these teachers underneath because they're mostly conservative, but the reason why they vote Democrat is because of the union. But that doesn't mean that they don't have conservative values. But we got to bring them along. And I hear the thing. Thank you very much. It's been an honor and a privilege to be here in such fine company with you folks. Thank you for coming to this event.
It has been a privilege to be here today with my, these are not my enemies, these are my opponents, these are friends. But, you know, we're all privileged to be here because this is the two-way street. This is what it's all about. It has been an honor to have worked for you already in the U.S. Congress, day after day, for the past 7 years, being entrusted by Senator Grassley, and I hope that means something to you when you hear that he entrusted me to do that. If you want to know more about me, call Chuck Grassley. You know, he's very accessible and he takes any calls. But find out from him what kind of job we did together, standing side by side. I remember days when, about 6 years ago, getting calls from whistleblowers within the Obama administration, talking about something nefarious going down on the border, maybe guns being sold to Mexican drug lords. And that's how Senator Grassley uncovered Fast and Furious. And then I remember about a year and a half ago, after Sandy Hook, that tragedy, where Obama and Harry Reid and Mayors Against Illegal Guns came out and they went after our guns, our Second Amendment rights. And we had a Grassley and a Ted Cruz bill to counter that, and we won. But they'll be back again, those gun grabbers and people who are against our liberties. And I know how to stand up against them, because I've had that experience. And I'm somebody who on day one will be ready, all ready to work for you. I will hit the ground running. I will be one solid conservative Republican vote for you. But I can do more. I know those tools of oversight.